Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan and the top stories that we're tracking for you this evening. The big four of Indian IT beat muted expectations in Q3. HCL Tech leads the pack with a 6% revenue growth. Wipro reports a steady quarter and the management says there are green shoots in discretionary spending. FY25 will be better than FY24, says the TCS management. IT stocks rally in trade as Infosys and TCS expect an uptick in BFSI spending. Also expect generative AI to deliver good value in the next 3 quarters. TCS says campus hiring will continue, but the salary for freshers will remain largely the same on an average.
When we are constantly interacting, whether it's with the promoters or with the board members or with the executive committee, I think there is a strong alignment on, in a way, what we've done, the achievements we've done, what we still need to continue to do.
CEO Thierry Delaporte says the management is aligned with the board on targets and achievements, says he's in constant communication with the promoters and the chairman. That's a CNBC TV 18 exclusive. The sensex and the nifty hit record highs thanks to a rally in IT stocks. The nifty crosses 21,900 for the first time in intraday trade. The sensex gains over 800 points to move past the 72,000 mark. Inflation accelerates marginally by 5.69% in December. This is well below street estimates, but industrial output slows to 2.4% in November as manufacturing struggles. The US and UK carry out airstrikes in Yemen targeting Houthi rebels who've been disrupting shipping routes in the Red Sea. President Biden warns of further action if necessary. Houthis term the attack as barbaric, say they will continue to target ships. Israel responds at the ICJ a day after South Africa alleged Israel's genocidal intent in Gaza. Says South Africa has put forward a distorted factual and legal picture, adding that their actions in Gaza were in self-defense following what was a massacre committed by Hamas on the 7th of October. BlackRock hands a sharp 95% cut to the valuation of Byju. The troubled edtech company's valuation has dropped from $22 billion to just $1 billion in less than 2 years. Less than 20 days for the interim budget, sources say the government is considering a 50% hike to insurance cover under the flagship Ayushman Bharat scheme. That's an exclusive. Prime Minister Modi inaugurates India's longest sea bridge in Mumbai today. The 22-kilometre bridge from South Mumbai to Navi Mumbai will reduce the current 2-hour travel time to 20 minutes. Well, first up, the link to the market action, a rally in IT stocks powering the sensex and the nifty today, taking both the indices to new record highs. The sensex, in fact, gaining about 800 points today, zooming well past the 72,000 mark. 72,568 is where it closed. The nifty, 247 points higher, 21,894 is where the nifty closed the day. The mid-cap index also closing about 170 points higher. The Nifty Bank up by about 0.5% or so. But clearly the story of the day were the IT stocks, and that led the rally on the Lal Street today as the investors digested the fine print that came in from Infosys and TCS. But after markets closed, Wipro and HCL Tech both reported numbers. Let's get you the fine print of the earnings. HCL Tech reporting a stellar set for Q3. The company's net profit rose nearly 14%. Dollar revenue jumped 6%. Margins expanded sequentially and attrition rate has eased to 13%. So a very good story there playing out for HCL Tech in Q3. Now, ahead of its earnings, HCL Tech's market capitalization hit the $50 billion mark for the first time in the company's history, making it the third Indian IT company after Infosys and TCS to join tech giants Accenture and IBM on the list. So a new milestone there as far as HCL Tech is concerned. Let's move now to Wipro. Third quarter earnings for the company ahead of muted expectations. Margins coming in at 16%, better than what the street was expecting. Dollar revenue fell by over 2% compared to the last quarter. However, the decline was lower than what the street was anticipating. That's Wipro's Q3 for you. Wipro CEO Thierry Delaporte told CNBC TV 18 that the management was aligned with the board on targets and achievements. Now, this is in relation to reports suggesting that all was not well and that Azim Premji was unhappy with the management's performance. These were reports, and Thierry Delaporte responding to questions around those reports. He added that he was constantly communicating with the promoters. Take a look.
has there been any communication from the promoters of the company about the performance of Wipro? Because there were some reports in the quarter gone by where it did appear that the promoters are a bit unhappy with Wipro's lagging performance versus peers. Has there been any communication from the promoters?
Rima, I will not certainly not comment what you could read in a press somewhere. But what I can tell you is certainly I'm communicating constantly with the promoters and with the chairman, and I'm in constant interaction on multiple fronts. And I'm very pleased with the level of our interaction. That's all I can tell you. And I feel that I'm in an environment that I absolutely need, and that, to do my job and drive, the organization forward.
Okay, so there hasn't been any communication expressing displeasure about the performance of Wipro?
No, I think when we are constantly interacting, whether it's with the promoters or with the board members or with the executive committee team, we are reflecting on, what's going on, what's working well, what can be improved. I think there is a strong alignment on, in a way, what we've done, the achievements we've done, what we still need to continue to do, and, the priorities to address over the next quarters. And I think that's, I'm very pleased about this alignment overall.
And since it's still a work in progress, if you would be offered another term at Wipro to complete the job, the task that you had taken on, would you be open to doing it? But though you still have a year and a half to go, I understand, but just asking.
I think I'm going to have this kind of questions, over the next months until, the end of the term. That's the rule of the game. I love what I'm doing. I have a great team. We've done a fabulous job over the last years, and, very positive about what's ahead of us. Is that clear enough?
Well, that is the Wipro management there in conversation with Rima, saying there is alignment between what the management is doing and the expectations of the promoters as well as the board. So with this, the big four of Indian IT have reported earnings in Q3. Rima has been busy over the past 2 days, and she's here with the report card. Rima, how does it stack up?
IT companies have reported a beat on low expectations. So despite a difficult quarter in terms of seasonality, higher furloughs, weak discretionary demand, companies, and all four IT companies, Infy, TCS, Wipro, HCL Tech, have had a better showing compared to what the street was anticipating. TCS has clocked in a revenue growth of 1%. HCL Tech, anyway, expectations were high for 4% growth. The companies delivered a 6% top-line revenue growth. The margin performance too has been strong. TCS, Wipro and HCL Tech have reported a margin beat. For TCS, margins have expanded for the second consecutive quarter. For Wipro too, despite a wage hike impact of 1 month, the company has reported, managed to maintain their margins at 16%. And for HCL Tech, it's a good, 110 basis points beat compared to expectation, with margins coming in at 19.8%. Infy too reported good margins, 20.5%, and the company has maintained its full-year margin forecast. On the growth for FY24, both Infy and HCL Tech have narrowed the guidance. Now that they have visibility into the next 3 months, they pretty much know where they're going to end the year. So for Infy, it's going to be a 1.5% to 2% growth here, while for HCL Tech, it's going to be a 5 to 5.5% growth this year. Some of the key highlights, which were common to all four: 1, deal wins were largely steady. Attrition has been ticking down at a good pace for Wipro. It's at a 10-quarter low. Financials, communication, high-tech continue to remain under pressure, while manufacturing is showing good growth. Also, and I think this is a big turning point, the management commentary appears to be a little more optimistic. So TCS said that FY25 will be better than FY24. BFS is going to show growth in Q4 versus Q3, and that's a big takeaway. Wipro too indicated that we are seeing green shoots. Early days, not enough to call a trend, but there are green shoots in discretionary spending.
Overall, we are optimistic. We are not, I think it's too early to call that things will be back to normal or back to good old days, but overall, we are optimistic. Two major headwinds for us in BFSI last quarter. there are some large programs coming to an end and the seasonal furloughs. Going forward in Q4, we don't expect, at least the furlough will not be there.
Talking to some of our clients, talking to the teams, there's also a perception of, pipeline coming back, a little bit of discretionary spend coming back, and so let's see how things are going, but certainly we see green shoots is what I would say.
Well, that's the quarter for the top IT companies. Let's now talk about the big macro picture. Macro data coming in today. Inflation accelerated marginally by 5.69% in December. And this was a surprise, though, and the reading was well below street estates. On the other hand, industrial output, that's IIP, slowed to 2.4% in November as the manufacturing sector saw growth of just over 1%. Lata standing by with her take on both the inflation print as well as what the IIP is telling us. Lata.
That's right. The inflation numbers are clearly undershooting, and that's a positive, coming in at 5.69 against expectations or a poll of 5.9%. The important number that's come lower is core, coming in at 3.9%. That's as per our poll, but undershooting, coming below the 4% mark is important. Remember, the Reserve Bank's mandate is to keep the overall inflation at 4%, and in that, core is an important number. The core inflation coming in below 4% is important. Food inflation has been the one that's been a bit of a scare. It's come in at 9.53% for the month, but that looks optically higher than November's 8.7% food inflation, but that's more a year-on-year impact. Otherwise, food prices are 5.3% lower than what they were in the previous month, largely driven by vegetables. Vegetable prices have clearly fallen off. The tomato onion scare is behind us. The only two elements which are still worrying, 0.5% higher cereals and pulses. That still keeps food inflation as a worry, but not anywhere near what it was in September, October and November. The inflation number, therefore, is likely to give some hope that the Reserve Bank may change its stance from removal of accommodation as early as February, but it's still too early to tell. We have to wait to see how the US inflation numbers pan out. Coming to the IIP numbers, that's a disappointment, coming in at 2.4%. Our poll was 3.5%. And this puts a little bit of a doubt on the NSO's full year forecast of 7.3% GDP. That is predicated on industry growing at 7.9%. With this one industrial output number coming in at 2.4, you begin to doubt that number. But then this could be a one-off. The industrial output number is genuinely worrisome if you look at the internals, consumer durables, consumer non-durables, capital goods, all of them have come in a contraction, but it could still be a one-off. The growth could well be made up in December, January, which are the busy season months. On the whole, it's a good set of macroeconomic numbers with inflation undershooting the Reserve Bank's expectation.
Rather many thanks. From macros to the big international story, the US and Britain have launched airstrikes in Yemen, targeting Houthi militants. Now, the action follows after repeated warnings to halt their attacks on commercial ships in the Red Sea. This is the first known strike against the Iran-backed Houthi militants inside Yemen. US President Biden has warned of further action if necessary. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said the attacks were an act of self-defense. The Houthi militants have termed the attacks as barbaric and said that they would retaliate. Israel has responded at the International Court of Justice a day after South Africa alleged Israel's genocidal intent in Gaza. The country's lawyers argue that South Africa has put forward a distorted factual and legal picture. Israel has also maintained that its actions in Gaza are in self-defense following attacks by Hamas on the 7th of October.
The applicant has regrettably put before the court a profoundly distorted factual and legal picture. It is unsurprising, therefore, that in the applicant's telling, both Hamas's responsibility for the situation in Gaza and the very humanity of its Israeli victims are removed from view.
The international community continues to fail the Palestinian people, despite the overt, dehumanizing, genocidal rhetoric by Israeli governmental and military officials, despite the horror of the genocide against the Palestinian people being live-streamed from Gaza to our mobile phones, computers and television screens. The first genocide in history where its victims are broadcasting their own destruction in real time in the desperate, so far vain hope that the world might do something.
The proceedings there continuing in the ICJ. Now on to the energy markets. Crude oil prices jumped over 2% after the airstrikes on the Houthi militants in Yemen. The markets fear that the strikes could disrupt supply from the Middle East. Back home, Union Petroleum Minister Hardeep Puri was asked about fuel prices at a press conference. He highlighted the disruption in the Red Sea and the rise in freight rates. He also added that oil marketing companies did not hike prices even when they had huge under-recoveries. Take a look.
OMCs or oil marketing company, exemplary role. They were good corporate citizens. खुद ना नुकसान हो रहा था, under recovery हो रही थी. Still they didn't raise the price. India, I think, and I'm saying I think because most likely, is the only country in the world where prices of petrol and diesel at the bunk have come down. Global production is sufficient to meet global demand, which is in the hands of the OPEC Plus. They keep producing this thing. But so far the good news is that we have navigated it quite well. हमने यहाँ ना availability में कमी आने दी, ना affordability में कमी आने दी और sustainability भी हम कर रहे हैं.
That's the Oil Minister Hardeep Puri. On to a CNBC TV 18 exclusive. JSW Energy is in advanced stages to finalize investors for its renewable energy arm, JSW Neo. Sources tell us that JSW Neo plans to raise $1 billion in tranches to meet its targets. Firms in the Middle East with an interest in renewable space are keen on buying a stake in the arm. These include prominent investors from Qatar. Well, yet another jolt for the troubled edtech firm Byju's. BlackRock has slashed the company's valuation by 95% in the last 2 years to just $1 billion. Now, in January of 2022, Byju's was valued at $22 billion. Since then, the company has seen several investors marking down the valuation, with BlackRock being the latest. Aishwarya Anand has the details. Aishwarya.
BlackRock has marked down the value of its holding in Byju's, slashing the valuation of the edtech startup to a staggering $1 billion. This is a massive fall for Byju's, which became the world's most valued edtech startup at $22 billion in 2022. Now, the first instance of valuation markdown for the edtech, BlackRock, which owns less than 1% of Byju's, in May 2023 had slashed its valuation by 62% to $8.3 billion. In November 2023, Prosus had downsized the valuation of the edtech giant to below $3 billion. Prosus had then said Byju's is a more challenged business and is confronting several headwinds. Peak 15 had also told its investors in its funds on July 26 that it is marking down its investment in the company over lack of visibility into its audited financials. Byju's is amidst a plethora of troubles. In a high-drama annual general meeting held on December 20, 2023, investors of the edtech giant grappled with a tumultuous session lasting 3 hours. The meeting featured a series of resolutions, most notably the approval of the audited FY22 financials, which passed despite shareholder concerns over auditor issues. The edtech giant on November 4th had finally released its financial statements for the financial year 2021 to 2022. The company reported an EBITDA loss of rupees 2,253 crore in FY22, about 6.36% lower than the rupees 2,406 crore loss it reported in FY21. Now, it's important to note that the results of Byju's core business operations and do not include its acquisitions.
Aishwarya, many thanks for joining us. A big blow there for already troubled Byju's. Now, with less than 20 days to go for the interim budget, sources tell CNBC TV 18 the government is considering an up to 50% hike in insurance cover under the Ayushman Bharat scheme. Now, final nod is awaited. Timsy standing by to take us through the details. Timsy, what's on the table?
Well, that's right. Sources have told CNBC TV 18 that the government is considering hiking Ayushman Bharat cover by up to 50%. As per sources, the proposal is under active consideration. However, a final decision is yet to be taken. Just to give a brief outlook of the scheme, Ayushman Bharat is a flagship scheme of government which was launched as per the recommendations under the National Health Policy 2017 with an aim to achieve the vision of universal health coverage. Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana or PMJAY, the scheme under review, currently is the largest health assurance scheme in the world, which aims at providing a health cover of 5 lakh rupees per family per year for secondary and tertiary care hospitalization. As per the performance of the scheme so far, government claims 25.21 crore Ayushman cards have been generated and the number is soon going to reach 30 crore plus. Government claims that more than 5.68 crore authorized hospital admission counts have been recorded. About 70,000 crore rupees of authorized hospital admission amount has been registered, and over 26,000 hospitals have been empaneled under the scheme. To be seen as whether the government takes this shot in the interim budget, or it would like to wait to announce this under the manifesto for general elections. That is something that we'll have to wait and watch for. Back to you.
Well, Timsy, many thanks for joining us. We will see whether that goes through or not on the 1st of February when the budget is revealed. Up next on India Business Hour, Prime Minister Modi inaugurates India's longest sea bridge in Mumbai. The 22-kilometre bridge from South Mumbai to Navi Mumbai will reduce the current 2-hour travel time to just 20 minutes. And you can catch all of CNBC TV 18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. Prime Minister Modi inaugurated the Mumbai Trans-Harbour Link, India's longest sea bridge today, known as the Atal Setu. The 22-kilometre bridge from South Mumbai to Navi Mumbai will reduce the current 2-hour travel time to about 20 minutes. Sonal Bhutra has more.
First, at 21.8 kilometers, the Mumbai Trans-Harbour Link is the longest sea bridge in the country. It will connect Mumbai to Navi Mumbai, which is a long-awaited connection. The bridge will begin from Shivri in South Mumbai to cross Thane Creek north of Elephanta Island and will terminate at Chirle village near Nhava Sheva. The Trans-Harbour Link will reduce the travel time from 2 hours to around 20 minutes. This is the reason why everyone has been waiting for this bridge. Now, of this 21.8 kilometer long bridge, the sea length is around 16.5 kilometers and land portion is 5.5 kilometers. It will be a 6-lane bridge with 1 emergency lane on both the sides. This will have interchanges at Shivri in Mumbai, there's Ulve, there'll be Jasai and Chirle as well. Now, MMRDA expects 70,000 vehicles to use the bridge daily for commute. And after a lot of to and fro, the toll has been fixed at 250 rupees per trip for this bridge. Now, the idea is to levy it for 30 years to cover the project cost of around 22,200 crore rupees. The Trans-Harbour Link and the new airport opening up in Navi Mumbai could significantly improve connectivity to the extended eastern suburbs, that is Navi Mumbai, Panvel, Kalyan and Dombivli area. This will also have an impact on property prices and the realty sector as a whole. A reduction in commute times and improved accessibility of newer suburbs will not only lead to more real estate development in these areas, but will also drive price increases across the Mumbai metropolitan region. There could be significant volume increase over the medium term following the infrastructure boost. Also, improved connectivity within and outside the city, including the new airport, should trigger new economic activity and office demand as well. Currently, South Central Mumbai and select western suburbs see nation-high property prices of around 30,000 to 100,000 rupees per square feet. This is, of course, on an average, while outskirts of the city are anywhere between 5,000 to 10,000 rupees per square feet range. This price delta could narrow with this. Renowned real estate developers in the country have already started initiating under-construction projects in Mumbai in proximity to this project. This move is a strategic response to the projected surge in demand for housing units due to the connectivity, which will improve. Now, Panvel is also a well-planned city, right? It effectively connects the city and the western lines because of its already existing connectivity with the Mumbai-Pune highway and the Sion-Panvel expressway. The sense of traveling or the ease of traveling to the other parts of the city only becomes more convenient. So, will you be using the Trans-Harbour Link, or do you think 250 rupees is a lot to pay for this? Well, Sonal Bhutra there reporting on the Mumbai Trans-Harbour Link that was inaugurated today and the impact it's likely to make. With that, it's time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. From all of us here, many thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. But do remember to tune into CNBC TV 18 because we will bring you all the action live and exclusive from the World Economic Forum's annual summit, Davos 2024, starting on CNBC TV 18 Sunday evening. From all of us here for now, thanks very much for watching. The
54th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum, with much-needed conversation on achieving security and cooperation in a fractured world, creating jobs and growth for a new era, harnessing the power of AI for social good, and drawing a roadmap for achieving climate goals. Davos 2024, the global epicenter of power, live and exclusive with us on CNBC TV 18, with a quarter century of excellence behind us.